Hey guys, I am John Carrick, author of Legacy of a Mad Scientist and The Legend of Ashley Fox. Two amazing science fiction fantasy novels for you on Amazon Smashwords or right here on YouTube as audiobooks if you want to listen to them. And today we are doing Trencher number 2, but I want to give a quick recap of Trencher number 1 because this is a very unique comic and there's not anything else like it, for better or for worse. So we're just going to flip through it really quick. 22 pages by Keith Griffin and is it David Lovering? No, David Lovering is the Pixies. It's not even David, it's Lovering Kindzierski. Kindzierski, that's his name. Lovering Kindzierski. So these pages, the teleport pages, the first 3 pages of this book are kind of the best, and unfortunately, it's kind of the high watermark for the comic. Which is not a good thing to say about a comic. If the explosions are the best part and it's not the character design, then you're in trouble. The next best part is the kinetic action and the motion and the movement of the characters in this comic. Every panel feels like it's on fire, and it works. It really works. So this is Trencher right here behind a column of fire with his gun pointed at you. And he is attacking this guy over here, Nose Jack. Again, this is from yesterday. I'm just recapping really quick. Look, you can see the motion even though you don't know what's going on, right? It's this style is very unique. And I think the writer-artist bit off more than he could chew because this never became bit off more than he could chew. Maybe that's not the right thing to say. How do you describe this book? This book is one of the biggest could-have-beens, never was, that I've ever come across. And apparently this writer-artist has been working with other people on other things, because there's a bit in here where he's named as, working with someone famous. I want to say the guy Simon Bisley, or like he wrote for him or something. So there's no way to describe this. This is Trencher. And he is a bounty hunter. He's a Blade Runner for superpowered people, whether they're villains or heroes. And he's sort of an intergalactic, interdimensional Blade Runner. There's not a lot of questions asked, although the answers do start to come out in the second issue, which we're about to get into. And at the end of this first one, he's being threatened by a character named Chernobyl, who is like a grandmother Aeon Flux, a great-grandmother Aeon Flux. Not very attractive, although I don't know that you can draw an attractive female in this style. This style is so unique. And by the second issue, we're already seeing it degrade a bit. This first page, I feel, does not live up to the art of the first issue, and it doesn't really improve. The colors are Lovering Kindzierski, but it's the pencils. This is such a challenge for everyone. So here's what's happening. Trencher is being threatened by this old lady, cyborg. They're kind of biomechanical transformers who can rebuild themselves on the fly. And she has tread like legs and feet, like mini tank treads. And so here she's ripping Trencher apart and throwing pieces of him around. And I think this is a good panel out here. Whatever this chunk of him that gets thrown off, it lands on the rooftop of a car and crushes the driver and steers the steering wheel. Here's the problem. Little gags and great panels are not enough to build a comic book around. The style is not enough to build a comic book around. This comic is a perfect example of what comics today are still suffering from. Great idea, magnificent creativity, incredible art on display, and a story that goes absolutely nowhere and is less than meaningless. It's hard to follow, and it becomes work for the audience, and this comic takes such an investment on the part of the audience that I don't know what the sales figures were. I bet the first issue sold through the roof. The second issue did half, the third issue did half, and the fourth issue barely sold at all, and by 5 they were canceled. So, look, here she is with the treads, where she's sort of like a roller derby grandma, going through traffic, just wrecking shop, no consequences. This is all comic, right? But nothing's real, and nothing matters. I suppose they feel pain when they get hurt, when they blow things up, when they crush people's heads, this is everything cartoons should be and could be. Invader Zim was this level, but Invader Zim had a story. Invader Zim had a very real story. Invader Zim did everything these guys did, but did it right. Jean and Vasquez introduced a new art style. It was just as kinetic as this, just as frenetic as this, but it was realistic enough to be colored and inked and consistent. It was realistic enough to be consistent to get a cartoon. I believe that a cartoon should be the goal of every comic book creator, not a movie, not a TV show, a cartoon. And if you can make enough money with your own comic to produce your own cartoon, that is, to me, the ideal world. Some people would say, why not just jump straight to a cartoon then? Comics will help you build your audience. The whole idea is building an audience for the story. Yes, producing the art, getting to do the art, getting paid for the art, getting to talk about the art. That is all gravy along the way. But it's the story that drives everything. It's the story that is going to bind an audience to your work. If Harry Potter had started out as a comic and became a cartoon, it would have garnered the exact same fans. The fans adored the story, not the medium. The fans do not care about your medium. They don't care if you're using a comic book, a TV show, a movie, a meme. They don't care. Liberty Meadows, Calvin and Hobbes, the exact same fans as Star Wars, Blade Runner, and Dredd. That's my humble opinion. As a fan of all those franchises equally, this franchise feels like a missed opportunity to me, but it also feels like it was the consequence of creative choices on the part of the team. These guys could have had it all. He would have had to change his art style a bit. He would have had to shade traditionally with the inks. There's no inked shading. I think if he had tackled shading, it would have leveled this up above and beyond. It's almost worth trying to do it, to take some of these pages, and if I could get them in black and white and then cross-hatch the shading, the lighting on the page. It's almost worth it, but I'd rather just do it with my own work. I spent a couple hours digitally inking some rough thumbnails that I've got. And I'll probably, after I digitally ink the thumbnail, so here's what I found in my own work, right? I fall in love with my first draft of pencils. And I was watching David Finch and Bart Sears draw last week, and they do a first draft of pencils, and they erase it to almost nothing, and then go in and do really fine penciling work. And that is definitely a step I need to master, and I've been doing it on the computer so I don't lose the really nice pencils. I've been trying to do it with a light box, but it doesn't work as well. It really has to be done on the original page. And so the pages that I've got up right now that I spent time penciling yesterday, that I spent time inking on the computer today, those I'm going to have to erase tomorrow and then go and fine pencil them and then ink them on paper and then light them. I have to do all this work to get to lighting. And if lighting had been tackled in the pencils on this work, I think it could have been a cartoon. But the bigger problem is the story and the characters, and the story and the characters aren't that great. So here, Trencher has, I think he's beaten, yeah, I should explain. Chernobyl being a cyborg, she's shutting down, her face is blasted off the side of her head, and her final explosion does her in. So that character is dead. But up to this point, all you had was the kinetic action of the back and forth. This is a little bit like what the second half of Dino King suffered from. All you've got is war. War is great if you're doing strategy and tactics like Napoleon and Wellington at Waterloo, but if you're not doing strategy and tactics, all you have is kinetic action and explosions. And then you're stuck with Youngblood and you have no story. Youngblood #1 murdered comics. It's the worst comic ever made. Best-selling worst comic ever made. Trencher is good, but it's a close second. So here, Trencher's all damaged and wounded, and he's talking to his computer, whose name is Gideon, I believe. And the computer has these sort of static line word balloons, while Trencher has the regular dialogue. And nothing is really being advanced. We know that Trencher is some sort of cyborg bounty hunter for superpowered beings. Who cares? This is bordering on superhero comics, and the plot holes necessary are making it tough to follow and not interesting. He's starting to talk about other superhero characters, who he has to go hunt next, who he has to go find next. And so here's a bit of travel to this bar where he meets someone named the Hurler down at the bottom of this page. Now that is not his target. His target is someone who has just been murdered by the Hurler, and he's not known for throwing highlight balls. He's a vomit villain. That's a pretty good name. He's a vomit villain, and he barfs on Trencher. So we've had the nose hair guy, we've had the grandmother who explodes, and now we get a barfer. So this is where this comic is not the Tick. The Tick had funny characters, funny side characters, and the art style didn't require massive visual translation on the part of the audience. The Tick is the best example of what this wanted to be and didn't quite achieve. And I don't know that I'm going to go through the whole series, because as great as the art is, I'm bored. And that is not a good sign. Bored is the worst thing you can be reading a comic, especially something like this. How can you be bored reading this? Well, I'll tell you, because nothing fucking matters. Nothing really changes Trencher. You can't hurt him. You blow pieces off of him and they grow back. He grows them back somehow like a transformer, like the Transformers in the movies. So here, Hurler returns. Trencher had thrown him out of a window, and he comes back, and he does, where does he do the, oh yeah, this is where he does the machine gun vomit. And it's just like, okay, it's gross, but I don't care. That's the problem, is I don't care. And I think, what does Trencher do to him? He rips him in half or blows him apart or something. He destroys him. And then a superhero, down here, this is very much like the Tick, when the Tick encounters, what was that guy's name? Red Scare, the Russian. And he's so happy because he's found a supervillain. So this is a superhero now threatening Trencher, and they're going to have a fight. I think Trencher just kills him, because I don't remember what happens. So, yeah, he apparently just knocks his head off. And we continue until the end. There's just some back and forth. Nothing happens. Yeah, he knocks that guy out. Here is what happens, though. So while Trencher is fighting this superhero, he's being scanned by someone overhead who realizes that he's mostly composed of dead tissue and robot parts, and that, he's some kind of cyborg, whatever. And that character is Supreme. And this is where I was really disconnected from the comic. If you're going to draw the Image characters and do them in your own style, this isn't enough. This isn't enough. This isn't enough of the Trencher style that I care. It's just bad. And I remember this Supreme character. He was kind of a cunt. He was kind of a douchebag and a dick. And I didn't care for him then. Here's a Trencher interlude thing that doesn't really says a whole lot about nothing, just that he's a bounty hunter. And yeah. And that's the end of it. Here we get a Chernobyl pinup, which doesn't look anything like the other character that he just fought. And then we got some ads, some decent Image ads. At least they don't fill this thing with classifieds like Marvel Comics. It's a good Brigade ad. It's good art. It's good art, but superhero comics are lame. especially Image's superhero comics. Image's superhero comics are the worst. The only things that they do right are indie stuff, like Walking Dead. Walking Dead worked out for them. Has anything else that Image has put out had that kind of success? I don't think so. Today's conflicted card, deck number 2. After the collapse, you have a decent community. Barter is the new form of trade, and everything is being bartered. A drug dealer shows up with drugs that are only addictive, sort of, let's say narcotics, right? Like oxycodone, all the others whose names I don't remember right now. All the Pans and Dans and Dolls. What do? Do you murder him? Do you take the drugs off the market? What do? Because he's just a symptom, right? So I suppose that would depend on the individual who is the drug dealer, right? It would greatly depend on who that person is. And for that person to have gotten as far as they have, they're going to have to be a pretty crafty individual, because they're being hunted by addicts and people who want to rebuild society. A drug dealer has no friends. Like, think about that. No friends. The addicts just want what he has. The regular populace wants to murder him because they don't want their friends and family going through that again, which they were probably addicted to before the collapse. So what do you do with a drug dealer? Find them out in the middle of the night. Throw their shit in the swamp. Ashley Fox Last Valkyrie. This is issue number 6 of Ninja Babysitter. Issues number 1 through 5 haven't been drawn. I don't think there's anything particular that I want or need to talk about or run my mouth about. Obviously, there's a lot of drama going on. Stocks have crashed. Bitcoin is up. I don't give a shit. I'm drawing comics. I got another chapter done last night. Really good one where I introduced Reverend Wolf. This is really cool. So Reverend Wolf has known Ashley since she was a child. He's this guy right here. He's one of her father's friends. He's in a lot of the artwork on the website, ashleyfox.ninja. And here he is helping her infiltrate a castle where a bunch of children are being held hostage. And in the chapter that I just wrote last night is the first time they meet. While Ashley is back here in the past, 300 years in the past, Reverend Wolf has been alive for a long time. So, yeah, I'm doing good. I will talk to you guys tomorrow with another comic. I don't know if we're going to do Trencher number 3 or something else. I've got a good stack of selections. I've got Dogs of London coming. We still have the rest of Secret. We still have the rest of Descender if I really want to do it. And I found that I have Conan the Adventurer number 2, so we might do that tomorrow. Raphael Kenyon is fucking god level artist. All right, see you guys tomorrow. Bye.